Hello, hello, it's Rachel. I have hamsters, and I'm back with the latest and greatest about my little fur friends who live in my office and some in my bedroom, and always in my heart. So thanks for joining me today. I'm sorry I'm a little hoarse. I was going to do this podcast update last week, and I got this cold. It's actually not that big of a deal. I just haven't really had a good voice, and I thought I could do it today. And now I'm hearing myself speak, and I'm like, maybe it's too soon. But I have so much that's going on. And then I feel like the more I delay, the more that stuff happens. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to cover all this in one episode? And I want to try to book some more episodes where I get to interview people. And it's just becoming too hard. It's too hard. I want to keep everyone updated. So if you joined me not last week, but in my last episode, which I think was maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, you'll know that unfortunately I had to say goodbye to my little robo Thor. He was such a sweetheart. I got him last April from Pet Supplies Plus. He was marked down 75%. Actually, it was more than 75 because he was only $3. I think he was kind of a funky little robo, not the typical cute, sort of stereotypically looking cute robo. He just was like a little gremlin, missing hair. But what he lacked in maybe conventional beauty, he made up for it in his sparkling personality. He was always like when he heard me, he would come running out and run circles and be excited, and I'd bring him out, and he was always excited to be in the playpen, and he liked pretty much all the foods. And if you have hamsters, you know that most hamsters are pretty picky. I don't know, for some reason, there's in my room full of hamsters now, it's oh, that one likes peanuts, that one doesn't like peanuts, this one likes banana chips, that one doesn't. It's amazing how many foods they don't like. Foods that you would think they would like who doesn't like a banana chip or a peanut? I don't understand. But my hamsters, they're picky. But Thor was not. Thor loved everything, and he just was so fun and such a great addition to my world. And it was really sad to see him go. And it just sort of coincided with me kind of ending up with a few more hamsters than I anticipated. I was thinking maybe I'll get 1 or 2 more because Maurice pretty much never comes out. And then I had Thor, and I was maybe 1 more. Thor's fun, but just 1 more. And so every time I saw someone post in my area saying they're looking for a home, I would say okay, if no one else can take them, I'll take them. And it just so happened 3 people ended up falling through or, needed a home. So I ended up taking in 5. It was supposed to be 6 hamsters. It was 2. No, sorry. Yeah, it was supposed to be 5 hamsters, and 1 had died. So I took in a pair of robos, a single robo, and then a pair of dwarves, but one of the dwarves died. And so, it worked out that I had just gotten this pair of dwarves, and one of them had passed away. But when I must have Maurice, when little Thor passed away, and so then I had his empty Night Angel Vista kind of staring at me in my office all day, and I thought, you know what, I just need to get this over with. I need to clean it out, and it'll make me feel better to have a hamster who needs a home, enjoying that home, and kind of honoring Thor and honoring every hamster that I've taken in, who's needed a home, and with their presence. I think some people can look at it as you're moving on, or it's oh, you got a hamster, now you get another hamster because that one died. For me, it's not like that. It's more I have all this stuff for a hamster. If I have one who passes away, past the time it takes me to clean up and do the proper kind of work I need to do, and take the time that I need emotionally, I feel the sooner I can get a hamster need in there, the better, because I'm just kind of, hamsters live short lives. Time is the essence time is of the essence of the something. I'm sorry. Something like that. Yeah, time is important. They live little short lives. So a week is meaningful to a hamster. And the sooner I can give a hamster who has a 4-inch wheel instead a 10-inch wheel, the better, right? So it took me 1 week to get through Thor's Night Angel Vista. He had a lot of bedding, of course. All the wooden items I cleaned. And so I'm going to talk through, if you have recently said goodbye to a hamster, this is what I do. And this is the mindset that I have in general. It's just like, I try to honor the hamsters by reusing the things, other than throwing away their bedding. I really save everything. So every wooden hide, every cork, that stuff, there's no reason you need to chuck that unless there's something like it's broken. But, it kind of makes me happy to think of all the hamsters who have used and loved the Night Angel cloud wheel that is now in there. And I remember buying that wheel for Steven and how close I felt to Steven, and seeing that, like, that wheel continue to be used. It's just really sweet. And I think that's like really important to me. I think the hardest part for me in cleaning out an enclosure is, it's more like when you come across where they slept, those little tiny warm holes, the little pockets where their round little bodies sat. Even I feel like I got to a point with some of my hamsters where I could like recognize the smell, their smells, I'd be like, oh, like that smells like Steven's little stinky smell. And, when you have a hamster I think Thor, I didn't have him for very long. Although I was attached to him. Certainly, like Steven, I had over 2 years, and I was really attached to Steven. And so, I feel like moving on from Steven was really hard. Whereas Thor, I felt ready to give the hamster a new home, and I felt really happy with the life that Thor lived. Like, I think I gave him a good life. He lived for about 8 months in a pet store, and then previous to that, probably a breeding mill. So he did not live a great first half of his life. And I hope the second half of his life was really good. And I think it was, the last time I took him to the vet, they talked about how easy he was to handle. And I just think about when I first got him and how I could hardly touch him, and how far I came with him in just a short amount of time. Dexter's out. It's funny because now the new hamster that I put in Thor's Vista is equally as excited to come out when he hears me. He's just like Thor. See, it's kind of like that. Their memory lives on, and he's sitting there staring at me like, aren't you going to come hang out with me? What are you doing? So once I kind of can mentally get past the death of the hamster, I find getting everything cleaned up and ready for a new hamster really helps me kind of work through the grief. And the way I do it physically is I take everything out. I bring up some like of those kind of plastic laundry tubs, if you have those, or like a cookie sheet also works. Just put everything on the cookie sheet. So the cork logs, the wheel, the platforms, just take all that out, put it on the cookie sheet. And then I bring that downstairs to the kitchen and I wash all of that. So the wooden items I wash with soap and water, and then I rinse them, and then I put those in the oven. For wooden items, you want to bake them kind of a lower temperature just until they're dry. So I usually do about 220, and I do like 20 minutes. The reason I don't do very high is because the wood can and will burn, and I've learned this the hard way. So if you don't want to ruin your wooden items, definitely keep the temperature low. It's always better to go low and longer with the wooden items. And if you have something flat, like the multi-chamber hide, you always want to place it flat on a cookie sheet. That way it won't get warped. It might get warped a little bit, so just heads up when you wash and bake something, it might get a little warped, but you can help prevent that by putting it flat. And then if you want to like put things on top of it to kind of hold it down, that does help. So once I get the wooden items washed and baked, for the cork items, so I have like some cork toppers for my multi-chamber hides, I just wash that with soap and water, let that dry in the dish drainer, like nothing special. Wheels, anything ceramic, I can pop in the dishwasher. You can wash that by hand with hot water and soap. I usually use gloves, like proper dish gloves. It just allows you to use hotter water than you would typically use. If you have a water bottle, I would definitely get one of those. Invest in one of those straw cleaners. It's like a fuzzy, kind of like metal thing that you can get. You can like go inside the long drinking apparatus on the end of the bottle, and that way you can get all that bacteria out of there and make sure it's nice and clean for the next hamster. What else do I do? I don't put those water bottles in the dishwasher though, because anything plastic, it can warp, and I've learned that the hard way too. And what's really annoying is with the Night Angel water bottles, those have gone in the dishwasher before, and unfortunately it warped. It's no longer usable. And then what's too bad is they don't actually sell water bottles separately. And other water bottles don't really work with the Night Angel holder, which is annoying. So now I have like an extra Night Angel water bottle holder and no water bottle, which is super irritating. So Night Angel, if you're listening, I would love it if you made replacement water bottles, maybe one day. But yeah, so just be careful with that. For sand, I don't throw away sand. Some people throw it away. I think that's a total waste. We don't need to throw away sand. It's silly. It's not something you need to throw away. So it is a little tricky though how you wash it. So first I take a sieve, like a fine mesh kind of strainer, so I can sift out all the poops and seed casings and whatever else is in the sand. So I sift all throughout that, put that in a big mixing bowl, and then I line a colander with like a fine sort of cloth towel, and then I put the sand in there, and then I rinse the sand. So you need like some kind of cloth that's going to be sort of tight enough that the sand's not going to go through it. So you could even use a washcloth or a towel. It just is not quite as porous. So it's better if it's like a kitchen towel. Most kitchen towels will work great because those are kind of like a thinner cotton sort of woven fabric. And then you can just rinse the sand out. Depending on what kind of hamster you have or how often you wash their sand or change their sand, might depend on how long you need to wash it. Usually I just keep going until it feels clean or it smells clean. And then once you have it clean, and you just take that towel and you kind of like dump it out onto a cookie sheet or like some sort of baking tray. Careful because the sand might go everywhere. So if you can like do this over a sink or maybe outside on your back porch, that also is a nice trick to keep the sand from getting all over your kitchen. And then you just go ahead and bake that. And I bake the sand at like 400 degrees for, sometimes it takes like an hour or two before it dries. So I usually time it for like an hour, and then I check on it, and then I time it for a little longer until it's dry. Dexter is determined to get my attention. So that's the sand. And then all that's left in the enclosure is the bedding. So bedding, if you have compost wherever it is you live, you can put that bedding in compostable bags. So either in those big paper bags you can get for like leaves, or I have these green compost bin bags. They're like pretty tall. So I just throw it all in there, and then I put it in my compost bin and put it out on the curb for the city to take. If you don't have compost, unfortunately, yeah, I guess you just have to throw it away. Depending on what it is, like if it's hemp bedding or something that you think wouldn't be horrible, that you could just kind of dump on your garden, or you have home compost, it's great to do this. Actually, if you have a home compost, using your hamster compost in it is a really great idea, because home compost is typically overfull with fruits and vegetables and other like typical kitchen scraps, right? And so you need in there to balance it out some paper and woody items. So actually it's great if you have one of those home composters to put the hamster bedding and hemp bedding or whatever you have in there inside your home composter. Really depends on what kind of situation you have, but that is a great option for you. And then once I have all of that out of there, I actually bought it pre-mixed, but it's like a 50-50 alcohol water spray. I just spray the inside, wipe it down, I spray it again, wipe it down, just to get all the little bits out of there. And the alcohol is great because it doesn't leave behind a residue. It does leave behind a smell, so you just need to like make sure it airs all out. But it's safe and really effective at killing anything that might be there. If your hamster died of what most hamsters die, it's unlikely that another hamster is going to get sick from that hamster. But it is always nice to just do your due diligence and clean it out and make sure it's nice and disinfected. So I like the 50-50 alcohol water spray. If you can buy it, that's great. Or you can just buy rubbing alcohol and mix it into a spray container and just, get a rag or two. I think I mean, sometimes it's nice to use paper towels, but I feel rags work just as well and are a little bit more friendly for the environment. So that is how I do it. So that's my process for cleaning. If you want to see a video about how I wash my sand, I actually made a whole YouTube video about that, and I will put a link in the show notes. I also did a whole post on my website about cleaning up after the death of a hamster. So you can check that out as well, and I will put a link to that down below in the show notes too. So once I finished cleaning everything out, I just decided to do the exact same setup as I had for Thor, and I went ahead and moved Dexter in. So Dexter is the dwarf hamster I got a few weeks before Thor passed away, maybe about a week or two before he passed away. He had come on my radar sometime in December, and maybe it was like, I don't know, early December. This woman posted, she had these two male dwarf hamsters. They were living together in a bin cage, looking for a home. She's about 45 minutes away from where I lived. And, at the time I had already committed to taking in 3 robos. So I was like, okay, I probably don't need another hamster. But I just sent her a message and I was like, if you can't find anyone, let me know. I'm happy to take them. And after a few weeks, she got back to me. I think I mentioned this in my last podcast, and she said, we're looking for a home. And so by the time we kind of arranged a time to get the hamsters have been moved from one person to the next. So they had belonged to her friend who was moving into an assisted living facility that wouldn't allow the hamsters. And so her nephew took the hamsters, and he wasn't interacting with them every day. And one of them during that time had passed away. And I don't know what happened. Maybe one killed the other, or maybe just, who knows? It's really hard to know. So when they got to me, immediately I found the one who had passed away, because I knew there were 2. And I was like, okay, here's one. He's very outgoing. And the other one I had to look for, and he was underneath a hide. It did look like he had been there for a little while. There were a lot of little poops. So I don't know what happened. It definitely had been a few days, because he didn't have like a fresh, I don't know how to explain, but it didn't happen that day. And I just felt terrible that I hadn't been able to help out sooner, because this new Dexter, my dwarf hamster, is just like so delightful. He's like the dwarf hamster I've wanted for a while now, and he's so cute. He comes out, he stands up, he looks for me. He's so excited all day long. Honestly, I feel like I'm not enough for him. Like and on days that I don't have time to hang out with him, I feel so bad. But he's just so much fun, and I love him. And it was so gratifying to bring him in and put him in Thor's cage, and just see him enjoy the space. He really uses all of the nooks and crannies. And he's funny because, kind of like Thor too, well, Thor would hide kind of when he sleeps, but Dexter sleeps out in the open. Like, he sleeps under the wheel. He sleeps, he has a little like peekaboo, like the peep shed that I put against the glass. He sleeps in there. So he's like, I think he likes it because he can see out. So I can see him too. And like when I walk in, he sees me and he can pop out. He is just such a funny little guy. The only thing with him, he's a little bit nibbly. He's not like biting, but he likes to kind of like nibble on your fingers, which is not like super fun all the time. So I'm trying to figure out I don't know if there's a way I can get him to stop. Like, I keep thinking like, well, eventually maybe he'll stop, but it hasn't stopped yet. So we're getting there. If you have any tips for a nibbly hamster, it is not aggression. I've experienced aggressive hamsters. He's not aggressive at all. He's just sort of like, he sniffs, he gives it like just the tiniest nibble, but I don't know what it means or why he's doing it. A little bit of mystery, because he seems to really love engagement, and I don't have any indication that he doesn't want to be around me. So if you have any thoughts, I'm all ears. Please send me your thoughts. You can leave a comment below, or you can email me, rachelgothamsters@gmail.com. That's me. So that brings, now that I have Dexter, so I have Dexter, I have Maurice, and then I have the 3 new robos. I have Ella, Stan, and Peggy. And and so you won't believe what happened. So I went back to Pet Supplies Plus because I needed some more Repti sand. That's the sand I use for my sand baths. And so I went to Pet Supplies Plus, and, I always peruse the hamsters just to like see how they're doing, see what their care is like. And there were 2 hamsters on sale for 75% off. I was like, oh God, no, why? And so I had to find out what's their deal. So I went and asked one of the people who work there, and this younger girl, and she said, that one, he was a dwarf hamster. They had named him Ginger. He had been there because he has this very red, kind of, like a red coat. He had been there, she said, I've been working there since March, and he had been there since before her. So she was like, he's probably been here like a year, which is a really long time. And he had a 4-inch silent spinner wheel. Maybe it was 4.5, but still absurdly small. And this guy is like a big dwarf hamster, not like a little one. He's like this like giant. I mean, maybe he's big because he didn't have a wheel to run on. I just felt so bad for him. And I was like, oh, I don't need another hamster, but this guy, it's so sad. And then there was also a robo who hadn't been there a year, but it was like at least maybe 6 to 7 months had been there, and was like a very, very cute robo, but really like shy and fast. So I think that's why he wasn't getting picked up. So I thought about it, and then later that night I went back and I got them both because what's wrong with me? I don't know. Anyway, I just was like, I just couldn't let go of the fact that they had both been there for so long, and thinking about Thor and his situation. I think I felt more compelled to pick up Ginger, the really big dwarf hamster who had a 4.5-inch wheel. At least the robo was smaller, so the wheel wasn't great, but like a little bit more usable. I mean, the dwarf hamster didn't fit in this wheel at all, which is like crazy. So I got them both home, and I set up quick bin cages for both of them. That's what they're in right now. They're in my bedroom. They're both in 200-quart bins, and like pretty minimal setups. Like they both have good wheels. They both, the bigger dwarf, he's on a 12-inch Night Angel super silent wheel. And then the robo, he's on a 10-inch because he's one of those super fast robos. He really likes to run. And so I did half their cages in hemp, and then the other half I kind of piled high. It's not super high, but I piled up some bedding, some paper bedding. And I've used some coffee holders, cardboard coffee holders. They each got like one hide, and I also have some cardboard boxes that I put in there with holes in them. So I think it's a pretty good like first startup. Oh yeah, and of course they both got sand baths. Yeah, very good first startup. Definitely a big improvement from what they had. Not by any means an ending point. I've now had them maybe 2 weeks, I think. So I need to go, I probably need to update them a bit. Last night, so the robo, so I named them so I have the robo and I have the dwarf. So the robo, I named him Miles, as in Miles Davis. And I named him Miles because he runs so many miles every night. He's a runner. He looks a lot like Oscar and like Steven, and kind of like a similar personality. A robo who with the white face, kind of more light in color, and really cute. And the kind of robo who like you see him and he's gone. They had named him Speedy at Pet Supplies Plus, so that was an appropriate name for him. And really for the first few days, I didn't see him. But last night I was in there, I was working, and I just decided to work in my bedroom. I was kind of like sitting on the floor, and he was like out and about. And I was surprised because I was also watching TV. It wasn't like it was like quiet in the room. And normally if I walk by, it's like he's gone, he won't come back out. But last night he was doing zoomies around his cage. He was running on the wheel. I sprinkled food for him. He kind of like ran away but came back. He wasn't like he wasn't out just because he saw me. So I feel like this is a really good sign. I have not interacted with him at all yet, basically, except for last night when I fed him and he didn't leave. But I think this is really great, and I'm super excited because it seems like we're going to make progress with this little guy. So I do need to give him a cage upgrade. So I think hopefully this weekend I can do some new things in his bin. I think I'm going to keep him in a bin for now. And yeah, it's just too many hamsters. And the bins are nice because they're just easy to move around. So I'll get him some platforms and, try to spruce up what he's got going on so he's a little more complexity and more borrowing space, because I think this is the kind of hamster who's really going to use that space. And then the dwarf hamster, Ginger, I renamed him Fred. So it just felt like Ginger was a little bit feminine for a male hamster. So I named him Fred, as in Fred Astaire. Although sometimes I still call him Ginger. I don't know. I still feel indecisive. But he is such a funny guy. They said he was a little bit nippy, but he has not nipped me at all. He's extremely chill. He's like almost doesn't notice if you're there. Last night he was out. He's kind of a slow mover. He kind of like dun 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 dun. He kind of like moves around. He came out last night and he was eating something that I had put out for him. I think I left out a peanut and he was eating it. And I brought up some cabbage that I thought he would like. I mean, he seems pretty interested in fresh food. I could not get him to notice me. Like I pet him, I put it right in front of his face. He was just like, nope, I'm eating whatever it is he was eating. He was like, I'm committed to this. It was pretty wild. And I just think reiterates the fact that every hamster is a unique snowflake and it's just amazing, their personalities. So this guy is going to be fun to get to know. He's just like doing his own thing and he does not care. But he does really he loves to forage. He's got pretty deep. I gave him like a lot of hemp bedding and I've been sprinkling all his seeds in there. And it's cute. In the morning, I can see these little like groove lines where he's just like tunneled searching for seeds. And what's funny too is he sometimes sleeps like underneath the hemp bedding. I'll go to look for him and he's just like, it's like he just went under, even though he's got paper bedding and he has a peep shed and he's got a box and all these things. He's still just like flat underneath the hemp bedding, just laying there. What a strange little thing. It took him a few days before he would even go in the sand bath. I think because he had never seen one before. I picked him up. I put him in the sand bath. He immediately got back out. He was like, I don't know what this is. I'm leaving. And I think it took like 3 days before I saw him even use it. And now he does use it. He's the sand bath that I had available. It's this like kind of strange shape. It's only like 3 or 4 inches wide and then it's really long. It's like 12 inches long. It's a refrigerator organizer. Technically. So, it's kind of got this funky shape, but it worked well in his cage arrangement, which is why I used it. So it's funny, he's dug out one end of it. So he goes under this one end and then there's like a little piece of cardboard that's like a coffee holder that sticks out over it. So he likes to go under there and hangs out for long periods of time and snacks. So I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's finally found his sand bath and it's really fun to see them just relax and unveil themselves and be who they're going to be. So that has been really exciting and redeeming. And I actually, I started to think like maybe I know before like I said, you know what, I'm going to just stick it to 2 hamsters, no more than 2 hamsters. And now here I am with 7. I have been pondering on changing the name of this to Rachel Got Hamsters Sanctuary, or like Rachel's Hamster Sanctuary. I don't know. Yeah, there's been, one thing I was thinking about is applying for tax exempt status and like actually, becoming maybe a hamster sanctuary / rescue. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but it's something I'm pondering on. Yeah, because I do think from a long-term perspective, I don't know that I want to adopt out hamsters, but I do think I want to be a home for hamsters who need one. I've always been that, but I think maybe in a bigger way. So it's just something I'm thinking about. We'll see where that goes. Yeah, it's kind of a complex process, so I don't know. Yeah, and then so the last little update I have is, actually, sorry, I'll just go back. If you're interested, if you are new to the hamster world, I did a website post on my quick bin cage. I thought it would be really helpful for someone who just got a hamster and it just like needs a quick and easy setup that's minimal in supplies or fairly low budget. Like basically the stuff that's in these quick bin cages is like, I feel the bare minimum to make a livable space for a hamster that is acceptable. I wouldn't say it's a good long-term living space, but I think it's okay for short-term. And then you can add to it as you go and either make things or buy things as your budget allows. And I think all in all, it's like the bin, let's say the bin's $40, like bin, peep show, let's say that's $20, so that's $60. I guess I would say it costs about $100, maybe a little more or less, for kind of the basic setup. It's definitely not cheap, but a lot of those items will last, especially if you buy nice things. The Night Angel wheel is going to last again and again. Actually, the wheel that I have for Ginger / Fred, I got Poshmark for maybe $20, so about half the price that I would pay for it new, because that's the size large, like the 12-inch size, because he's a really big, he's a big guy. So if you're on a budget, check out that post. I'll put a link down to it below. And, or if you know someone who's on a budget and, or wants to upgrade from a critter trail to a bin cage, I think this is a good, like, stepping stone. And, yeah, and if you're on a budget, don't forget about Poshmark. Don't forget about secondhand markets like Facebook. I've gotten a lot of great stuff from those places. There's so much good stuff out there, especially now that it's been 3 years since Night Angel's been on the market in the US. So there's actually more and more stuff being sold on Facebook Marketplace or in Facebook rehoming groups. People sometimes sell their setups. So I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested. Okay, now I can go to my final update, which is that I finally changed the background on my phone. That's a huge thing. It is kind of though, because I had that background there for almost 4 years now. The background that I had, I'll post this on my website. I had this picture. It wasn't even a good picture. It was a picture of Steven, my very first hamster, a little robo. When I first got him, I had him in a critter trail for like a week, and then I moved him into it was like a Midwest Brixby cage or something. It was 350 square inches or so. At the time, it was 2020. There wasn't really any commercially available cages. Maybe there was the Preview 528, which isn't really good for robos. And then there were bin cages. So I was moving him into this cage, and then I had shortly later moved him out of that into a bin cage. But I was in my, early learning phase. And the picture is of him looking over the new cage, like kind of nervous to enter it. And it's not even a good picture, but I took it, and I remember I would go to work every day wearing a mask. I was like so lonely and so miserable because it was the middle of the pandemic, and all I have was just like little Steven, and I like couldn't wait to go home and see him. And I kept that image in the back of my phone for this whole time, like the last 4 years. This not even a good photo. And I don't know why I didn't even update it to a better photo of him. It was just like from the top down. So it was just like you could see the top of his head and his little ears as he's looking down into this cage. I was going to update it to another photo of him just because he was my first. But I don't know. I couldn't find like a good high quality photo of him. So then I decided to use the photo I recently took of Dexter, of him looking up at me from the playpen. And it's just really gratifying and sort of strange at the same time. Yeah, it's strange, like the way my life has changed in the last 4 years and the journeys I've been on with these little guys, but exciting too. And it's been a lovely journey, and I can't wait to find out what's next. So those are all my updates this week, and I just want to say thank you as always for joining me. If you have any questions, thoughts, or you'd like to be on the podcast, send me an email. And can't wait to update you on the rest of all my going-ons in the future. All right, see you soon.